Last week saw the setting down of the two main consolidated alliances that are going to go head to head in the 2024 general elections. One is the opposition-led India, which is the Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance. It's a new moniker for the opposition, which is the UPA, kind of reinvented UPA with some more partners. And the 25-year-old NDA, which met in New Delhi, along with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who made a big speech welcoming his 38 partners, many of whom do not have any representation in the Lok Sabha as of now. This episode of Talking Politics with me, Nistula Hebbar, will be looking at what these two opposition groupings and the NDA grouping looks like from the inside. What is the talk that is happening? How are things going to be structured as the both of these alliances face off in 2024? Welcome to another episode of Talking Politics. As I said before, this is all about alliance talks, both in the opposition and in the NDA grouping. Both, of course, have thrown up extremely interesting scenarios, and interesting things went on during these meetings and after. Now, let's begin right off the bat with the opposition alliance. The first big thing about what happened in Bengaluru is that a new name was chosen. The UPA was possibly because of the burden of the brand, discarded, and a new name was chosen, which is the Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance. The name suggested by West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee was adopted by the rest, and a lot of weight is being put on the possibilities with regard to campaign and narrative building, which is, NDA versus India. Can you defeat the idea of India? India jeetega, India will win, etc., etc. A very close sort of identification between nationalism and the opposition parties who say they are trying to save the idea of India, of the old India, of tolerance and inclusivity, versus the NDA, which they say is practicing majoritarian politics. Now, apart from the name that was chosen and that was given the green signal, other things were also being discussed. One is that there's going to be a coordination committee which will be looking at how things are going to be done in terms of seat adjustment. Right off the bat, leaders of all the major political parties who had gathered there said that state-level alliances would be better to negotiate than a national-level alliance. Wherever allies of this these parties, wherever these parties are in alliance in state governments, it will be easy to do. Where they are facing off, that will of course require a bit of dexterity. For example, in West Bengal, Congress and the Trinamool Congress really are rivals there, even though Congress is a much diminished rival, but they have a certain amount of vote and they would not want to get it transferred to the Trinamool Congress. In Kerala, again, it's Congress versus the left parties who are also part of the India alliance. In Punjab and Delhi, it is Congress versus AAP, especially in Punjab. The direct contest is between Congress and the AAP. In fact, this is one of the reasons why it was very difficult to get the Congress to agree to oppose the Delhi ordinance, which is going to come up in the monsoon session of Parliament. So that particularly problematic alliance negotiation will be left for later, but certain national level alliances will be negotiated earlier so that things can be eased into. Secondly, a vision document, not a common minimum program, but a vision document will be negotiated. Committee will be set up, the usual suspects. The intellectual heft of the opposition parties will get together and kind of talk about a policy framework and what to go to the people with as a joint alliance. And thirdly, another coordination group will be set up to work out joint rallies and programs on which political leaders of various parties are to get together, because that will require a lot of coordination. During the meeting, it was seen that Nitish Kumar, Tejasvi Yadav and Akhilesh Yadav left early. They were not present in the joint press conference held at the end of the meeting in Bengaluru. This gave rise to speculation that Nitish was upset. He expected to play a more prominent role in the India alliance. He was a little bit skeptical about the efficacy of having a name like India. He said it sounded too much like NDA and people would get confused. But he said that if everybody else has agreed to it, let's go ahead, whatever. And but he did not appear at the joint press conference along with his deputy Tejasvi Yadav. So everybody was a little worried, and there was a lot of speculation that he was upset and therefore he went off in a huff. He clarified the next day that he'd had an early flight to catch and therefore could not make it to that meeting, to that press conference. Well, from whatever my experience has been in terms of covering coalitions, etc., we are going to see like a year-long string of speculative stories now about so-and-so being upset, so-and-so being neglected and marginalized and, you know, walking out, not walking out, etc., etc. So I would suggest that you just chalk it down to one of those things. Now, this is what the opposition meeting was all about. There was, you know, the decision of the name and the nitty-gritty of how to go ahead, how to structure this alliance in a way that it works for everybody in terms of seat adjustment, joint programs, and a vision document where the real work will start. When it came to the NDA, it was an interesting situation. Now, there are 38 partners in the NDA, and when I went through it, at least 25 out of these 38 did not have a single representation in the Lok Sabha, or they just had like one party representation. And many of these, at least I think 16 of these parties did not even have any experience of fighting a Lok Sabha election. They did not fight in 2019, but they have been corralled into the NDA, which is completing 25 years this year. This was the NDA was an alliance which was put together by the BJP in 1998 when they found that they did not have 272, which was the halfway mark, and they needed to end their political untouchability, which had accrued to them because of the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. And the NDA at that time had put aside its core issues of abrogation of Article 370, the construction of a Ram temple in Ayodhya, and the implementation of a uniform civil code across the country. So these three things are put aside, and for the sake of governance, to provide a stable government at the center, many parties, I think 22 to 24 parties came together, including Mamata Banerjee, her TMC, the then Samata party of George Fernandes, and Nitish Kumar and Sharad Yadav, and Lok Janshakti Party, etc. So they are all come together and run the government for 6 years, 98 to 99, which was 13 months, and then 99 to 2004, which is again 5 years. So this was like more than 6 years. And even in the opposition, NDA stayed more or less together. This time around, the constituents, of course, are extremely different. And Prime Minister Modi did set the cat among the pigeons when he said that the breakaway faction of the Shiromani Akali Dal, led by Mr. Dhinsa, and the Shiv Sena's breakaway faction, led by Eknath Shinde, Chief Minister of Maharashtra, were the true heirs of the founders of those parties, Prakash Singh Badal and Bala Saheb Thackeray, respectively. The Akali Dal, I have heard, has taken umbrage at this. Akali Dal, led by the Badal group, has taken umbrage at this categorization by Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi also encouraged the sundered uncle-nephew duo of Pashupati Paras Union Minister and his nephew Chirag Paswan, who split the LJP following the death of Mr. Ram Vilas Paswan, Chirag Paswan's father, on the question of who owns the legacy of that party and of Mr. Paswan Sr. So the BJP is encouraging both these parties to come together. That was one of the sidelights that happened before the NDA meeting. So as I said earlier, many parties had basically 1% vote share in their state, or max 5 to 6%, as in the case of the United Lok Janshakti Party. You have a party like the Nishad Party, which got only 0.9% of the vote in the state elections, assembly elections of Uttar Pradesh. So why is it that all these people were brought together? BJP spent so much of time wooing them and giving them a place at the table with Prime Minister Modi. Well, I had spoken to a lot of BJP leaders who were in charge of this coordination committee to set up to renegotiate terms for the NDA again. And they said that they expect the 2024 elections to be extremely polarized. That is, either you're this side or that side. So many of these parties are in the middle. If they throw in their lot with the opposite side, it'll be a problem. So better that they are in your tent than outside pissing in. I mean, those were the exact words that were used to me. So I'm extremely sorry for the unparliamentary language, but that's how it is. I don't know any better way of describing why this was done. Tiny parties with no experience of electoral politics, but with some community vote and influence. For example, Om Prakash Rajbhar, who was first with the NDA, then went with Samajwadi Party, and then came back to the NDA, has influenced around 4 districts of eastern Uttar Pradesh. Always a very fragile situation for the BJP there because of the large number of OBC votes there, which largely go to the Samajwadi Party. Some of the non-Yadav OBC votes, of course, go to the BJP, and it is these votes that BJP wants to consolidate there. It'll basically have influence over at least 6 to 8 Lok Sabha constituencies. That's a big number, as I said, in a very, very polarized election. And on the first day of the monsoon session of Parliament, in fact, Prime Minister Modi said that NDA MPs in groups of 30 to 35 will be divided into 10 clusters. Each will be put in charge of one union minister, and they will be meeting in turns with Prime Minister Modi in terms of going forward, strategizing, mini-strategizing, micromanaging, messaging and narrative building. Some of these things will be discussed with MPs themselves, and I have been assured that more and more meetings and collaborations, etc., will be done with the constituents of the NDA. So as I said before, the 2 gladiators have basically appeared. There is some sort of a form that they have acquired now, and it's going to be a roller coaster ride for the next year or so for political journalists. I'll be there along with you on this journey, basically documenting what is happening. 2024, an election where Prime Minister Modi is determined to get a historic 3rd straight term. He could well beat the record of late Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru when he does that. And it will be interesting to see how the opposition tries to break the hegemony of the BJP, which has been there for the last decade or so. This is all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching.